So the other thing that happens with resistance and where acceptance is key is when it comes to anxiety and all other kinds of things related to that. So it's not just anxiety. I mean, to be honest, it's all of the negative states. But anxiety is probably the most prominent one that people struggle with. What's happening is, but I don't know how to, let me just clarify that. So it's anxiety, frustration, anger, fear, sadness, all these things when you're indulged. What's really happening is there's a resistance, a non-acceptance. And acceptance turns out to be the key ingredient that can change all of that. So the acceptance is key to transforming the relationship with all of these things. People otherwise will struggle unnecessarily for years and decades and whole lifetimes with these things. And the key that changes that is acceptance. But I'll look at it just using the lens of anxiety, but this will translate over to all the other things as well. But just to keep it as focused, I'll just talk about anxiety. So if you think about anxiety, then a lot of people they say they experience anxiety, but they don't really take a look to see what is that actually. What are we really talking about? So it's because anxiety, and this is true of all experience, if you just give it a name and then you walk around and you say, I have this problem, then it's not usually going to help you. You want to actually find out what is the actual experience. So if you look and find out what is the actual experience that you call anxiety or anger or fear or whatever, that's much more useful. So if we look and find out what is the actual experience of anxiety, then what you will find if you look for yourself to see what that experience is that it is when you have a preference and you don't have confidence that you can guarantee that preference. And so you feel powerless, but you are resisting that. Okay, so let's say, really, I have a preference that everybody will approve of me. But I don't get to choose whether everybody's going to approve of me. I don't have that power. Other people might not approve of me. And I know that. I know that other people might not approve of me. So now I'm in a situation where I have a preference, but I don't feel that I'm empowered to ensure that I can get that preference met. Now, as long as I resist that, that is called anxiety. Okay, so I'm saying, on the one hand, I need other people to approve of me, and I acknowledge that I don't seem to have the power to guarantee that other people will always approve of me, and I resist this. That's anxiety. So this is why the remedy for that is acceptance. And I'll talk you through a process that you can use for this. So you think about something where you experience anxiety, and if you don't experience anxiety, you can think about this. Like I said, will also work for anger or maybe even depression. I hadn't thought about that one, but it could work with a lot of different things. But I'll talk through it with anxiety. So think about something where you experience anxiety, and then think about what is your preference? So you have a preference. And then notice that you also acknowledge on some level that you don't have certainty that you can get that preference met. You don't feel that you're empowered to ensure that that will be the outcome. Now, notice that for you to experience anxiety, you have to resist that. You have to resist. So one way that you can help yourself with this then is to acknowledge that you have the preference. Okay, so the example that I gave is I prefer that other people approve of me. Then the question is, are you willing to accept other people not approving of you? Okay. Because as long as you're not willing to accept it, you're going to be stuck with the anxiety. So ask yourself, are you willing to accept that other people might not approve of you? Then you can take this even further. Well, before we go there, just see if you can actually get to that point. Are you willing to accept that other people might not approve of you? And you might notice that there's actually another layer to this. So we usually project that it's some outer thing. So, the concern is that other people might not approve of me. That's the outer thing. Other people might not approve of me. But then what is that to me? Why do I care about other people might not approve of me? It's actually because I'm concerned that I might feel something that I don't want to feel, right? So then there's actually another layer of preference. I prefer not to feel the discomfort that I imagine I might feel if other people don't approve of me. I mean, it's even more. There's even another layer in there. So I would prefer not to feel the discomfort that I imagine I would feel if I was thinking that other people were not approving of me, right? Because I don't really know if other people approve of me or not unless they tell me. But that's a preference that I have. So then if I'm in resistance to that, if I'm in resistance to feeling that discomfort, I have anxiety. I really don't want to feel that feeling of discomfort. And as long as I'm resisting that, I'm going to have anxiety. So then I can ask myself, am I willing to accept having the feeling of discomfort? And somebody's asking, what is the experience of acceptance? So acceptance is, you could say, simply a willingness and openness to the possibility of something. Just saying, okay, this exists, or it could exist. Could also say it's the absence of the resistance. So the resistance, you could notice, you could imagine, you could actually push your hands against one another, feel the resistance of that, so you can feel what that is, and then you can stop doing that. So are you willing to accept the possibility of feeling whatever you would prefer not to feel? Because it might happen. So are you willing to accept that possibility? Now, if you're willing to do just that much, this can stop the anxiety. But like I said, you can take it even a step further. You could choose that feeling. Because choosing is empowered. It's empowered to be willing. But if you choose, it's another level of empowerment. So you could ask yourself, if you're willing to choose that feeling, and you could, in your imagination, this is the amazing thing, is even when you just, it's a trick, because even if you just imagine being willing to choose, even if you just entertain that as a possibility, even if you don't choose it, but you just imagine the possibility of choosing it, you're still actually in that moment choosing it. Because you have to, in order to do that, you have to actually feel it. You have to choose that in that moment. So you can do that now just by entertaining that possibility. And then the more that you're willing to entertain that possibility, then you don't have to, it stops the anxiety. You don't have to have any anxiety. Of course, you could choose again to be in resistance. I'm not going to take that away from you. You still have that possibility. You could go back to choosing the resistance. But the point here is just that you can realize that you have other options available to you, and you can experience that directly. And once you experience that directly, then hopefully you realize that that's much better. It's much better to choose the unwanted feeling, the unwanted experience, that is to experience anxiety in anticipation of the possibility that it might happen. And then sometimes people then will again, from a superficial understanding of the law of attention, will raise concerns about this. They'll say, well, but wait a second, if I'm choosing the unwanted feeling, then am I not putting my attention on the unwanted feeling? Is that going to cause it to grow in my experience? Well, actually, in practice, no, because once you've chosen it, once you've accepted it and chosen it, then why are you going to keep putting your attention on it? You won't. You're putting your attention on it over and over and over and over and over and over and over as long as you're resisting. As long as you're resisting, there it is. And you just can't help but put your attention on it. You're trying not to, but you can't help but put your attention on it because you're resisting it. But as soon as you're willing to accept it and choose it, then it's like, oh, okay, no big deal. And then you don't have to keep putting your attention on it. So continuing to resist is what makes the thing problematic. It activates the law of attention, putting your attention on what you don't want. So with all these things, you just want to be aware of what's actually going on. A lot of the time, what happens is people are caught up in thinking about things instead of actually just noticing what's really going on. And there's a world of difference between thinking about things and actually just experiencing directly. Because it's amazing the kind of delusion that we can suffer from when we are thinking about things rather than just noticing what's actually going on, because you can think and think and think and think and overlook exactly what's going on. But if you just notice what's actually going on, you'll get so much clarity, because then all these things will become clear to you.